Good morning, and welcome to the Breakfast Club at Cordaville Hall on this wonderful spring day. The weather is fine. Of course, at the Senior Center here in Southborough, the weather is always fine, and we're always happy to be here. And I'm Bill Harrington.
And I'm Susan Keir.
And we're here to welcome you to a great breakfast catered this day by our friends at TJ's Food and Spirits. Always a good meal there, and they always have a wonderful little catering menu for us here. Following breakfast today, who's going to be our speaker?
Well, today we have Suzanne Billings, and she's a Regional Disaster Coordinator for Central Mass Red Cross. So I think you're going to find this fascinating. It's a great story of all the work that they do to help out folks in disasters. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of interesting how Suzanne got into this, because when she was 13, her family had a terrible fire and everything was destroyed. And the Red Cross came, they took care of them, they provided everything that they needed. And Suzanne was sold, and she said, you know, when I grow up, that's what I want to do. I want to work for the Red Cross. And that's what she did when she was, I think it was 19. She went to the Red Cross and said, I'd like a job. They gave her a job as a secretary, and she didn't know how to type, she didn't know how to do anything. And within 18 months, apparently, she was promoted to Regional Disaster Manager. So she, wow, as she said to me, I must have done something right.
Evidently. Wow, good for her.
So yeah, it's an interesting story, and I think you'll enjoy her. She's a lot of fun.
Good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I am too.
Good. So let's see what Suzanne has to say. Fortunate this morning to have Susan Billings here. She's with the Red Cross Regional Disaster Crew, and she's going to tell you more about her specifics, but so welcome to you, Susan.
Thank you. Are you all set? Hi. So I have a lot of energy, so I'll keep you going. I won't bore you, I absolutely promise. So my name's Suzanne Billings. I am one of the disaster managers for the state of Massachusetts. There's 6 of us. And I've been at this job for a little over 9 years. And I'm at the Red Cross because I'm doing a pay ahead. Because my house burnt down when I was 13. I have 9 siblings and my parents. And the Red Cross was right there, right with us. Took us right to the store shopping and just took care of us all. So when I got brave enough and raised my children, I went right to the Red Cross. I'm here. And they hired me as a secretary. And I couldn't type. And I certainly couldn't use a computer. So 18 months later, I was the director of the emergency services director for all of Central Mass. So I guess I did pretty good. So the area that I cover is, I can cover any part of the state of Massachusetts, but my area is all of Central Mass, New Hampshire to Rhode Island and Connecticut. And now I am also I just picked up Framingham and Hopkinton. So we're going to be hopping around because we know our fire numbers are going to rise. But to today, we've had 105 fires this year in Central Mass that we have responded to. And when we respond to a fire, it's 24/7. I am the only staff member, so it's all volunteers. Joyce and Jerry are with me. Joyce is in the office on every Thursday, and she reviews our medical paperwork, and she's there to do whatever I need. And Jerry is always around. He goes to almost every fire during the day. He's just fabulous. So I want to thank them for coming too today. They were actually going to do this presentation, but then I told them that the TV was going to be here, and I said, I don't think I'd be very fair. So, so when we come to a fire, we bring a vehicle that we call Irv, and I always call it a guy. So we bring Irv, and he is packed full of everything that you could need. So we pull up, it's the winter time, nothing on your feet, jammies on. We have sweatsuits and socks and slippers with hard soles. We have diapers, we have tissues, we have teddy bears, anything you could think of. lots of blankets that are hand knit or crocheted. They're donated to us. And so we have all of that stuff. We're going to get out of the truck and we're going to take care of you right away. We're going to keep you warm and make sure you're okay. Hot chocolate, coffee, tea, juice, snacks, always with us. And doesn't, like I said, 24/7. All volunteers will get up middle of the night, trudge into the office, get in the truck and go. And so after we've taken care of your immediate needs, we will then sit down with you and talk about what exactly are your needs. How can we help? It doesn't matter your income, the size of your house, whether you have insurance, it doesn't matter. When we run out of our home from a fire, we don't often take our pocketbook or our wallet or even our car keys. So we are there to provide you with 4 things. When you leave us, you will have food, shelter, clothing, and access to any medical equipment. Eyeglasses. We will give you a certificate to get a free eye exam and free eyeglasses. If we have a fatality in a fire, we've had way too many since July. Way too many. When there's a fatality, we help to pay for the funeral as well. So we're there to do all these things. So the way we do it is when you lose everything you have, you kind of feel like you lose control. So we give you a MasterCard to get these things that you need. And the reason we give you the MasterCard is so that it helps you also get through this mentally as well as physically. You go to the store of your choice. If you want to stop at a restaurant and eat, you can go to a restaurant. If you want to get groceries, you can get groceries. It's your choice. You want to pull up to the gas pump and get gas. You need that coffee at Dunkin' before you go anywhere else. You can pull into Dunkin' and get it. When you leave us, that MasterCard is activated. If you have nowhere to go and you have no family to stay with, we're going to put you in a motel for up to 3 days, possibly a few more, to help you get back on your feet. And we also have a team of mental health providers, psychiatrists, psychologists, and they volunteer with us as well. And they'll make a phone call, check out, see how you're going, make sure you understand that if you're moody or if you're not eating, I can't sleep. With children, they notice that children won't go to school because they don't know where they're going to go when they go home because they don't have a home. So there's things that you have to watch for. So we have a team of mental health providers as well. We also travel across the country. So right now we have 4 people in Oklahoma. One's doing feeding, one is down there doing the financial stuff, and the other 2 are down there working in shelters. So we are not just for here, we're for the entire country. Whatever we do in Southborough, we do exactly the same thing in any place, any town or city across the United States. So our services are identical. So what I want to do today is I want to talk about sheltering, because we have seen such an increase in our weather being much more, have a much more bigger, longer impact on us. In Massachusetts or in New England, we are not people to knock on someone's door and ask us for help, right? We're going to hunker down at home, take care of ourselves. We're not going to reach out to anybody. So what we do is we'll come out here and teach you what you have to have in the house so that you are safe. The heat's on, but you don't have any power. So there could be a way that you're going to figure out how to heat the house. You're not turning the stove on in the kitchen. You're not going to bring the gas grill in. So my mother-in-law did, and oh my gosh, did I freak out. We're warm, we got the gas grill in the living room. And generators we want to be careful about. We almost lost 2 children yesterday because Mom had the generator on in the garage with the door shut. So we want to make sure that you feel safe, not just I'm worried, but I want to know I feel really safe. So I'm going to talk about some things about sheltering in place, and then I'm going to talk about some things in regards to going to a shelter and how you can go to the shelter, but come on in and check it out first. I'm not going to sleep in that place. you're going to come and check it out, and we're going to welcome you. And you have one of the most amazing emergency management program here in your town. They're amazing. And so I'm going to go over some stuff, and I'm going to also ask you some questions about what you think you need if you're going to stay at home. You can't get out. Could be you're sheltering in place because there's an overturned tractor trailer that's leaking and you cannot leave the house, and it could be for a long period of time. Could be a number of things. So I often think about the electricity piece. So we'll go to the spring. We don't have our heat on. And I can't leave my house. What are some of the things you think you're going to need? Food. All right, so you got those canned goods and you got some tuna, whatever. How are you going to open that tuna can? How many of you have manual can openers? Awesome. So when you're at that yard sale and you don't have a manual one, buy the manual one that's probably 50 cents and keep it in the drawer. How about, what else would you want to have? Water. Yes, we absolutely want to have water, and we want to keep it in a go bag, in our backpack or whatever you choose. And we want to remember to rotate it. So you always have water in that bag, because we are really bad about taking the batteries out of things that we don't need. We shouldn't be taking the batteries out, like the flashlight. Never ever works when you need it, right? Or you can't find it. So our suggestion is power outage, it's nighttime, is glow sticks. So they're not just for the kids. Glow sticks are really nice because they're not expensive. They come in bracelets and necklaces, but you can hang these on the doors. So hang it on the door to get out of your home. Hang it on the bathroom door, the bedroom door, places that you need to see things if your flashlight just died on you. So these are really good things to have. And like I said, they're not expensive. When you open any kind of glow stick, all you do is snap it and shake it. So you can get these at dollar store. I always do the dollar store route because, you know, that's the best route to go. Dollar stores, you can definitely get glow sticks. And like I said, even the bracelets will hang right on the door handle. A cabinet door, the refrigerator. So this is a something that is definitely something you want to have. What else? Money. Yes. So on our go bag, let's go ahead. We have a little pocket to put some money in because the ATMs are not going to work. So we right away think of, oh, I'll just go get gas and I'll drive to my kid's house. There's no gas stations when there's no power, right? So you can't do that. And you can't stop to get something to eat because there is nowhere for you to go when there's no power, right? So when we had the ice storm of 2008, which totally devastated north central Mass, and I know that our partner cities and towns to the south thought, we have ice storms all the time in Massachusetts, what's the big deal? Well, if you drive up in the north part of Massachusetts, you'll notice that there's no treetops. They're all gone because they all broke off in 2008. And many of those cities and towns had no power for up to 2 weeks. Power crews would come in and they would actually come out, the people would come out and feed them these big meals, turkey dinners, and whatever, because they didn't want them to leave the town to go anywhere else. So they were going to make sure they did not leave. And that storm was basically what you call a storm of inconvenience because we were all inconvenienced. Everything was just not, my cell phone wouldn't work because I have power to charge it up. Laptop didn't work, you don't have any power to charge it up. And it was hard to get around the roads. So it was a storm of inconvenience. It was the stuff that we were used to having we couldn't have. I stayed in the house till it got 42 degrees, my hat on, blankets, and I finally said, this is a little ridiculous, and off I went to a hotel. But another thing is you won't find a hotel room anywhere. You won't find one anywhere. One of the power companies actually went to a hotel, a large hotel up in the north area, and paid the people that were living in the motel to leave. And they had the money to go to a hotel outside of the area because power companies were coming from Canada, out in the west. So this is why we want to be prepared. We want to have these things. What else do you think you should have? Medication. So we all know that we need to have no less than 3 days worth of medication at all times, right? So we're not going to wait until we get down to that last one and then finally get off to the pharmacy and get our prescription filled, right? So we're going to always make sure we got that 3 days. Medication. What you want to have is a list of your medications. So I know, do many of you have that on your refrigerator? Yes? Good. Good. Okay. So you want to have medication, or a list of medication. What else do you want to have?
Water.
What? Water.
No, water. Heat, as in, like you said, or sleeping bag.
A heavy blankets, right? I live by myself, and I don't need 3 blankets. What if the heat goes out? I need a whole lot more than 3, right? Okay. What else do we need? Generators are nice, but we don't all have them. What else? We're not putting on any candles, even if we put them in the kitchen sink. We are not putting candles on. It's just not an option because you don't know. It's open flame, and you don't know. 10,000 fires a year are started by dogs or other pets because they knock the candles over. Wagging the tail, and there goes the candle. So in place of a candle, we want a flashlight. So I'm trying to get around the house with this, and I'm opening the cabinet, and I got it like this because I need my hands. The best flashlight you can have are the ones that go around your head, and they have the light right here. And did I ever laugh when I saw my son walking the dog with this thing on his head? They don't have batteries that you can take out and use somewhere else. So it always has the illumination. Most of them also have a red flashing light on them, which is a good thing to have as well. What else can we have?
A hand crank radio.
Absolutely. So we're going to make sure that we have, if not a hand crank, we at least have a radio that has batteries. It's the only way we're going to communicate with outside. What's going on outside my house? So this is a radio that is probably $5 at the dollar store. And that's all you need, something this small. You stick it in that go bag and with the batteries, and you can hear what's happening out there. There's nothing worse than not being able to know what's going on around you. What else could we have? But we have no power to keep our cell phone charged. So I learned a lesson about that. What do you need to do if you don't have a cell phone?
Make sure you have gas in your car.
But what would you do if you couldn't get phone numbers that are in the cell phone? Because I can't call my own daughter because I don't know her phone number. I do not know her phone number. My son, I do. So when we had the ice storm, I learned that lesson. So now I have a small phone book with every single phone number in it. So if I lose my cell phone, which is my lifeline, I have this little book in my pocketbook. So you need to have phone numbers written down. A whistle, this is a little whistle. It's not anything big that you have to have. Again, in the dollar store. So people can hear you if you need help. You should always have a whistle in the house. A lot of us, we should actually have whistles on our key rings. So, she's got everything. Look at her. She's got the flashlight, everything. We also want to make sure that we have, let me see, first aid kit. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. So here is one first aid kit, and here is another one. It's just a little bag with a couple Band-Aids. It has a pen, a flashlight, a few Band-Aids, and a little notebook. So it's all in this nice little baggie. So I got everything at my hands. And I'm not going to stick it in the back of the closet, and I'm not going to put it under the bed. I'm going to make sure it's where I'm going to remember that I have it. So we're doing a program right now. It's called the Disney Pillowcase Project, and it's sponsored by Disney, and we're doing it for children to know how to pack these shelter-in-place bags. And they get a pillowcase with Disney characters, and they draw on it things that would make them feel safe if there was a disaster. So we know it's not a backpack, one of the 10 that's in the closet. It's a pillowcase with all this writing all over it. So it's making sure that you don't just throw it in the corner and forget it. So the spring ahead, the fall back is something we can use for so many different things. The smoke alarms, the carbon monoxide detectors, your go bag, rotating food. There's just so many things that we can remember by just remembering. Spring ahead, fall back means to get prepared for the winter. We're going to be putting on our heat. And spring ahead, we're getting prepared for the spring and summer. So we're putting away those clothes that we're not going to be wearing in the summer, pulling out our summer stuff. So it's a great time to remember this. And you had a question?
A comment.
Okay.
I have a hand-cranked flashlight because I never remembered the battery.
Got one of them.
Flashlight.
Yep.
And that same flashlight can also be used to charge your cell phone in an emergency.
Wow.
I got it off of Amazon.
Wow.
13 or 14 bucks, something like that. And you crank it, it'll give you a couple of minutes of light for 1 minute of cranking.
Yeah.
You can also plug in your cell phone and get enough to make an emergency call.
That's nice. And everybody knows that, I lost my train of thought. I'll go back to the flashlight. So this is actually a flashlight that will never need batteries, because that's all you do. You just crank it and you always have a flashlight. It's a good thing to have in the trunk. I mean, not in the trunk. Got my mother a cell phone, and my mom's before I lost her, she was in a wheelchair, and where's her cell phone? In the trunk. And it was like, Mom, what are you thinking? So, glove box, really good place. So you just crank it up and you always have a flashlight. All right, extra batteries. Let's see. Water, we talked about water. This is actually a package of water. And we want to keep food that we can eat without heating up. How many of us have had a can of cold beans? I mean, I have. Yeah. All right, we can eat cold beans. Our kids would say, oh. Cold beans. Another thing about spring ahead and fall back, it's a great time to clean your pantry. Because I don't know about you, I'm by myself. So I don't eat at home a lot. And so I've got to remember to rotate that food, because I'll look in the cupboard and say, oh, I have 6 cans of soup, I'm fine. And then when I go to get a can of soup, it's about 3 years old. So 3 years past that expiration date. So it's another time to be thinking about food in the pantry. So the next thing I want to talk about is, what do you do when you have to go to a shelter? Well, first thing you do is panic. I am not going there and sleeping with all these people. I don't know what to expect. So what communities will do is they will open a place that is going to be a shelter, and you are welcome to come any time of the day or the night. Come on in during the day. Charge your cell phone. Have a hot meal. Find out the local news. Don't be afraid to come. It doesn't mean you have to sleep there. It's there. We're there for you. The shelters are there for you. We do not tell you where your shelters are in advance, because we don't know where the disaster is going to hit. So I don't want to say to you to go to the school when that may be the area that's hit and there's no way to get in, and now we're putting you at risk. So if you do have to go to a shelter, and you do have power, but you have to be evacuated to a shelter, just don't call 911. All right, so we're going to use 911 for an emergency, a life-threatening emergency. because they just can't handle the incoming calls, and they're out on the road trying to take care of the disaster. So we're going to call 211. 211 is first call for help. Everybody knows 211? Oh, well, you will now, and I need you to pass this on to 2 people, so they pass it on to 2 people, and they pass it on to 2 people. 211 is a United Way information line. You can call 211 and ask just about anything. Anything. So you pick the phone up, and you put 211 in, and they answer the phone. And they ask you most often what your need is. So let's say my grandkids don't have any winter coats. I can't afford to buy them. I just can't afford it. So you tell them that. My kids need a winter coat. They're going to ask you your zip code. And give them your zip code. And they're going to put in what you need, and they're going to give you some referrals of places to call to get those winter coats. It's that easy. If the 211 system in Massachusetts goes down because of the disaster, California can take the 211 calls because it's on the computer. So they just start taking the calls, they route them to 211 in California, Texas, wherever. So 211 is, I've always called it my Bible with all the years that I worked with homelessness and helping people, because it's a way to get us what we need as quickly as possible and within our own community. So we may not know that there are things right there next door for us. So why am I going to call 211? I'm going to call and say I live in Southborough and I need to find a shelter. I need to get out. Where do I go? They're going to tell you. They know moment by moment where every shelter is in the state. So this is why you're going to call them. Another reason you could call 211 or a family member of yours is, I want to help. How can I help? You call 211 and say, I live in Southborough. I want to help. What can I do to help people, my neighbors? Or they'll tell you. Why don't you call this place, and they will get you they'll get you a job to do, because we have a lot of jobs to do in a disaster. So those are things that you want to remember. So don't ever forget the 211 number. And what I think is great about it is that people can call 211 from the comfort of their own home, and nobody else knows I'm doing it. And I found this out when I was doing outreach for food stamps. And it was always, I'll never need food stamps. You don't want other people to know some things like that. You can call them. Call 211. They give you the phone number. You do the application online. They send you your card online. You never even have to go anywhere to get it. Nobody knows. So it's being comfortable about getting what you need and not being afraid to ask. So it's really important to always remember that phone number. So, do you have any questions about sheltering in place?
Do you have the capabilities of refilling oxygen tanks?
What a great question. That's such a great question. The number one population that does come to a shelter are the ones that have medical needs. So when we had our shelter open during the blizzard of 2008, we had 3 people in the shelter that had oxygen. We had 1 person that had the CPAP to sleep, and we had a person with a colostomy bag. We also had a hospital that was putting people on a bus and sending them to our shelters. So we are equipped with medical people to help us. It's called the Medical Reserve Corps. And they will come in and they will work in our shelters. Or we may have paramedics, we may have EMTs, we have medical personnel. We have nurses in our disaster program. Joyce is a nurse, and she'll work in a shelter and do what she needs to do. Because we need these kinds of things, we went to Homeland Security for Central Mass, and we talked about the need for this type of stuff. You don't have your walker, you don't have your wheelchair, you don't have your cane. We have now $122,000 worth of durable medical equipment. You can't sleep on one of those cots down on the floor and your back has to be raised a little. We've got those new cots. And then someone gave us a $130,000 donation, and we don't know who. It was anonymous. we were able to buy a trailer and have it equipped to put that equipment in. So we have a generator on the front of the trailer, which gives us electricity inside the trailer, and then we have cabinets and ways to tie down our wheelchairs and things. So we're always thinking of this. What are we going to do to help you and be prepared? Number one reason why people don't go to shelters. Because they can't bring their pets. You're going to leave them at home? No, you're going to stay home and not look for help because I'm not leaving my pet. So during Hurricane Katrina, it was so bad that thousands of people lost their lives. And you remember seeing people standing on the roofs with their pets, with their dogs, need help? Because they didn't think they could bring their animals with them. And as recently as Oklahoma last year, people still felt they could not bring their pets with them. We want you to bring your pets. They're a part of your family. They help you with healing through a disaster, right? They comfort us. So we can't have the pets in the shelter where you're sleeping because you may have the calmest little dog. He is out of his element and it's very noisy. He could be very aggressive because he doesn't know what's going on. So our pet shelter is going to be right next to our people shelter. You're responsible for yourself all the time. The town's not responsible to make sure you have what you need in the house when you're sheltering in place. And they're not responsible to take care of us. We've got to do it ourselves. So right next to us we have this pet shelter, and we have a team called the Central Mass Animal Response Team. And we also have on a state level the State of Massachusetts Animal Response Team. They have trailers with crates and blankets and dog food and cat food and all kinds of things. So they pull their trailers up right next to the Red Cross shelters, and they're taking care of the pets, we're taking care of the food. You have to go and walk your pet, feed your pet, clean up after your pet, because that's not their job. But it also helps you to be able to take care of yourself and your pet. So what else do you want to have in that go bag?
Pet food.
Pet food, yep. You don't have a carrier for your cat or a small dog. You can get cardboard carriers and put your pet inside. You want to have a picture of your pet in your go bag. So if you lose him, cats will most often run and hide. If you lose your pet and someone finds it, they know who it belongs to because you have a picture of your pet. So how many people are learning things? Everybody? Good. Then I'm successful, right? Oh, police officers are saying me too. Good. Then we're doing a good job then.
Do you have all these things you went through? I'm trying to, retain them all. But
We're going to give you a booklet.
take out like a list.
We're giving you everything. Yep. We're going to give you a booklet, and it's called Seniors by Seniors.
Thank you.
So seniors wrote the book for seniors. So they've already been through it. Now they're going to share it with you.
Thank you.
And I'm also going to give you another sheet that is preparing your pets in disaster. Okay? Share what you learn with someone else, because if we share twice, that's going to share 4, and that's going to share even more. So we need to share information. And this is the first community that I have come to do these presentations that is televising it. And I think that's fabulous for all the people that can't get out of their homes or don't want to come for breakfast or come to a meeting like this.
I am a retired nurse. I never, ever realized what the Red Cross does.
Thank you.
I think it's imperative that you get this information out. We only hear of Red Cross being there, but we don't know to what extent.
That's right.
And donuts.
That's right. Yeah. Oh no, we're one too. Oh.
That's what we remember.
We sold the coffee to the servicemen. We didn't, but we did.
Right. The reality of it is, you have definitely made me a Red Cross believer now.
Thank you.
It's unbelievable what you encompass.
What they accomplish. It's one staff member to over 100 volunteers. I can't do my job without them. And I have counterparts. So I have 2 people that can do my job. If I'm out sick, I'm on vacation, whatever, they can do every single piece of my job. Because we have to do this. People don't know that we have a congressional charter to do this. We don't have a choice. So we have a charter with Congress that dates back to the early 1900s, well, I say early 1940s. And in this charter, we are responsible for taking care of the American public during a disaster. So we have to be prepared. We have to prepare you. So we'll have less of an impact if you know what you're doing, right? We have less people we need to take care of because you know what you're doing. And if you are going to a shelter, I want you to remember that you're taking care of yourself. When we had the ice storm, there were no evacuations. People came to the shelter, or emergency personnel would pick them up and bring them to the shelter. People came with no medication, no clothes, no warm sweatshirt. They didn't bring anything. And it was because of that thought that, oh, someone else is going to take care of me, but we're not, because we can't. Because in the shelter, there may be 3 workers, 3 people that know how to work in a shelter, because you're going to be workers. You're not going to come in and just sit in a chair all the time, right? You're going to be wiping tables and sweeping floors, and that's how we do it together. So bring your stuff. You like to do those crossword puzzle books? My mom loved them. We started from the small ones, then we had to get to the big ones with the big print. She loved those books. So bring your books. If you read, bring your books. Bring your own flashlight. Bring a heavy sweatshirt. Clothes that you're going to need. You don't know how long you're going to be there. And bring, this is one thing I teach my volunteers right off the bat. We need to live in a gray area, all right? We don't live in gray areas often, and that's why a lot of people, we don't have patience, and we don't have, I don't want to say the kindness, but we're in such a rush all the time. So I ask everyone to, if you're going to come on the disaster team, you have to live in a gray area. If your area is black and white, you see this and you see that. When I tell you to do this, that's how you're going to do it. I need to be in a gray area, because today I'm going to tell you something, tomorrow I'm going to tell you the total opposite. And you're going to get all frustrated because you live in a black and white area. And so you have to understand that we have to be in that gray area, and it keeps us calmer. Because if I go to the grocery store and something happens to the register, I'm not going to panic because I live in a gray space. It's a mechanical piece of equipment. What are the chances of it breaking down? What am I doing to that poor girl working at that register? I'm freaking her all out. There isn't anything she can do. So being in that gray space is having an understanding. And one of those understandings is, if there's a disaster, there's no one else that's going to be there to take care of you, because we're all trying to take care of ourselves. And we're not going to say, we had that disaster and we didn't see any police officers. We didn't even see the fire department come by. We didn't even have a plow. We were snowed in for 4 days. So what? Because guess what they're doing? They're taking care of areas and people and places that are much worse off than you are, right? So we have to live in that space, because these people that are serving our communities and plowing our roads, they have families too. And they have jobs to do. And there's very limited numbers of them. And it's the same way with us. There's very limited numbers. So if I have 100 volunteers trained, I can only count on 1/3. So only 33 are going to come and help me, because the other 2/3 were affected by the disaster. So I have to teach them how to prepare their families. My son-in-law is a law enforcement officer, and he has to know that when he gets in that cruiser, that my daughter and my grandchildren are okay, because he can't do his job if he doesn't know they're okay. So we need to be prepared. Take care of ourselves. Don't count on other people, and get involved. Help someone else to learn what you learned today.
How do you interface with FEMA?
Very closely. I work on a level with communities, directly with the communities. Then we have our next level, which is mass emergency management. It covers the entire state. And then we have a third level, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And so the Red Cross has all the same levels. Salvation Army has all the same levels. We all interface together to get the job done. So mass emergency management can't handle this disaster. It's just too big. The federal government comes in, and they support Massachusetts. The town of Southborough can't handle this by themselves. Then the state of Massachusetts comes in and helps Southborough. And the town next door to you is not affected. They're sending all their equipment and manpower over here. So this is how we interface. None of us can do this by ourselves. We just can't do it by ourselves. And I might be doing sheltering, and the Southern Baptist group is here doing all your feeding. When the tornado hit, Southern Baptist people came from all over the country with chainsaws. They are the chainsaw crew. And they cut all those trees that were in the way of homes out in Western Mass, and that's what they do. They also have a mud out crew that comes out in their boots and everything else, and they will remove everything in your home that's flooded. And they will take the first 4 feet off your walls, clean it out, spray it all down with bleach, get all the furniture out to the curb for you, and that's how we do this together. Nobody does it by themselves. So, any other questions? All right. I know I may have overwhelmed you with a lot of information, and you made a good point, because I did. And so that's why we're going to give you stuff to back up everything we said. And please know that your senior center is here to answer your questions and to help you, and don't be afraid to ask, but also don't be afraid to call us. If you have any types of questions like that, don't be afraid to call us. Or talk with your fire department, because, boy, those guys are prepared to take care of you in a disaster. No other questions? All right, thank you very much. Oh, Jerry has a question.
You mentioned Safe and Well.
Oh, I didn't mention Safe and Well. This is why I bring them with me. Safe and Well is a line that you can, it's a computer-based or telephone. You are in a major disaster, and your children live in New York City. They can't come here because no one's being allowed to come in. We are going to set up this system as quickly as we can, and you're going to register yourselves. So now your son's going to check on Safe and Well, and he sees your name, just your name, and he knows my dad's okay. I don't have to worry about my dad. And the same on our end. Hurricane Sandy, an elderly man in the city of Worcester called and said, I don't know what to do. I can't reach my son on his phone. I can't reach my daughter-in-law. I don't know what's going on. I'm scared. We will do all the research. We're going to find out, did it impact the street they lived on? If not, they possibly could be okay. Are they listed on Safe and Well? By the time he went to bed that evening, he had talked to his son and his daughter-in-law. So this is another service that we do. We got to make sure we cover all the bases, and so we have a system to do that, to help you to connect with your family so they're not afraid. Where are you? Who's taking care of you? I know when that tornado was coming from out in the western part of the state, I have 9 siblings, and they all live along Route 20, exactly where that tornado was coming right down, and my mom in a wheelchair who lives by herself. So my thought was, I couldn't even do my job. My job is to be ready to take care of you, and I was like a mess. And so I had to figure out who was going to go and pick my mom up before the tornado came, because on the news it was saying it's 15 miles from Springfield. It's 20 minutes from Palmer. This is what I'm hearing, so I'm freaking out. So it was like, how do I get them to take it seriously? That was my biggest problem, because I live and work in this world. And so my little brother, I get a hold of him, and he goes, oh, no big deal, I'm at the hospital, I'm leaving now, I'm walking home. No, you're not. The tornado is about 10 feet away from Palmer. And he called me back about 15 minutes later and he goes, no, we're not going anywhere, we're all going to the basement. So we don't pay attention to that stuff. So where am I going to take my mother? So my sister's going to get her because she's the only one with a basement you can roll into because she's in a wheelchair. So we brought her there, and talk about being grumpy. I want to go home, I just want to go home, right? So my sister said, click your heels together 3 times and say there's no place like home. So we need to listen to when we're told to do things. Do not say it never happens. Okay? Pay attention to thunderstorms. It was a storm, we used to sit on the porch, right? We always used to sit on the porch. We can't do that anymore because these storms have such a much powerful impact than they did before, so we need to pay attention. For people that are really into these smartphones and downloading things, the American Red Cross has applications you can download. Matter of fact, you can even download this through the state. It's a tornado application, and it will actually sound like a siren when it goes off. This is when I need to take cover. Get to my basement, no one's around, get in my bathtub, know how to do these things. All right? Any questions?
Well, that was really interesting. I was very much surprised at all the things that the Red Cross does, and I'm sure you were too. Well, maybe you weren't, but it seemed to me like they get into a lot of areas that really, really are beyond what you would expect. When there's a fire and you're displaced, they're there to help you from the moment of the fire. They're there. They have clothing, they have blankets, they have just
Food and drink, very important.
Yes.
All kinds of nourishment.
That's right.
Apparently,
Coffee.
if you run out in the middle of the night in your pajamas, you know you have nothing. Often nothing on your feet.
That's right.
So,
they
they
have
provide
clothing.
everything.
And what really surprised me was that they even give you a MasterCard. If you're totally out of your house and have no place to go, they'll arrange for a hotel room, but they will give you a MasterCard which helps you get through the crisis, and you can use that card to buy food, to buy gas, to buy clothing if you need clothing. You can use that card for anything you want. And I thought, wow, what a great idea that is. So they're right there for you in more ways than you can believe.
They are quite remarkable, and actually I did have some sense of what the Red Cross does, because when I first came to the US in 1981, I didn't have a working visa. I came over with my husband, and I went to work for the Red Cross as a volunteer, 5 days a week, here in Framingham, and they were wonderful, and I did everything from blood drives to service to the military to classes, helping people coming in, anything. And it was fascinating, and I did get a sense of the incredible work that they do.
Well, you knew the Red Cross even from when you were in England, because they're over there as well, right?
Well, that's right, and that's actually how it happened that I went to the Red Cross, because I had that association from, obviously I wasn't around during the war, I hope you realise, but from my parents, and the Red Cross was always the organisation that stepped in and took care of everyone. So when I came to the US, and I thought, oh, well, if you volunteer, where do you go? And my husband said to me, well, the Red Cross must be somewhere around. And that's how that happened.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. They took me in and they became my family in a way, and were incredibly helpful to me.
Great.
So I have a little bit of a story like Suzanne's, I guess.
I guess you do. That's very good.
Yeah.
And I was also impressed with what they do for disasters, big major disasters, and how when you're taken to a shelter, not only do they have shelters for you, but they also have shelters for your pet, and it's a separate little area. But you want to take your pet with you if you've got a disaster going on. You can't leave your pet behind, so they actually provide for that, which I thought was another interesting thing.
Yeah, because people won't leave their pets. I mean, you see them on the news, on the roof of their houses with their dog next to them. And I would be the same way. I wouldn't leave my dog either. So it's great that the Red Cross sets up a whole separate pet shelter. And the owners still take care of the pets, but that's where they sleep and so forth. They have crates and whatever they need. So they think of everything, really.
They certainly do. And then they have also have a number that you can call 211, which is operated by the United Way info line. And if you don't have a real emergency where you call 911, if you just have a question or need some information, you can call 211 and they will answer any question that you have that you might like to hear the answer to. And they also have another program, Safe and Well. And that is, if you have relatives in other parts of the country, you can get in touch with Safe and Well, and they can find out where you are, or you can contact them and tell them that you are safe or well. So that's another interesting service at the Red Cross. So it was really, really interesting, some of the things that Suzanne brought up. That,
Yeah.
in fact, it was interesting, as you saw on the tape, when she said, did anybody learn anything? And even the members of the police department
Yes.
that were here also had said they learned something. So I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
telling.
that was funny. But I just don't think people realize how wide the reach of the Red Cross is. And whatever you'll need, whether it's, as you say, to find out about relatives in another part of the country, or just to be able to buy a cup of coffee, or take care of your animal, find a place to live. I mean, it's phenomenal what they do. And she said they've already taken or been called to 105 fires this year alone, and we're only into June.
And that's an amazing number.
That's a lot. That's a big part of what they do is going into fires.
So we hope that you all enjoyed this breakfast club this morning, and want to, of course, extend an invitation to come here to the Senior Center and get involved in some of the activities that go on here, the Tai Chi, the card playing, the singing, the pool, luncheons, all great activities. Please feel free to stop by the Senior Center, because it's always fun to know that there's lots of stuff going on behind this white picket fence here on Cordaville Road, and it's
Don't
a friendly
forget,
place.
Next month.
Ooh, next month. What are we doing next month?
Yeah, nearly forgot. Next month's going to be our last one for the summer, and we have the history of the Burnett family. Paul and Patrice Doucette, members of the Southborough Historical Society. They're going to join us, and they're going to present the history of the Burnett family, one of Southborough's really prominent families. They founded the very well-known Deerfoot Farms and the Joseph Burnett Company. And he actually lived in Southborough and was a Boston pharmacist. And he developed the vanilla extract, which became world known. You know, everybody uses vanilla.
Yeah. When I was a kid, they had a factory in Ashland, and when I was walking to school, we used to go by that factory, and you could smell the vanilla.
Could you?
Yeah.
And that's a great memory.
Yeah, it is.
It's a wonderful smell.
It certainly is.
And then they purchased the land in town, which became Deerfoot Farms as we know it today. And that was famous for its dairy and pork products, so it produced a lot of milk. And I happen to know that Paul is a collector of old milk bottles. That's his thing, so maybe he'll talk a little bit about that. He's a pretty interesting guy. I think you'll enjoy him.
Oh, that should be a great program.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Good. So, always welcome at the friendly place here, the Senior Center, and the latch string is always out.
And we'll see you next time.